what's going on, everybody? It's Brandon. Welcome back to Marotta Media. You should know the spiel by now. It's been a while. It's been a very busy last month, okay? No matter how long it took me, this is a video that I really wanted to make, even though I am extremely late on it. So well over a month ago now, almost 2 months, it's crazy that it's been that long, I attended my first ever film festival. I attended this year's Phoenix Film Festival at the beginning of April. It's something that I had heard about forever, and a friend of mine volunteered at it last year. He said it was a lot of fun. So I said, you know what? I'm going to do that. I'm going to volunteer at that next year. And sure enough, I did. And before I get into the meat of this video, I just need to say I had such a blast at this festival. Seriously, it's been almost 2 months since the festival ended, and I'm still really sad that it's not going on. I had that much fun at it. I met a lot of really cool people. I got to know so many incredible people, and on top of that, I got to watch a bunch of really good movies. In fact, I watched 10 total films at the festival, which is honestly amazing that I was able to watch that much, in my opinion. And this probably isn't the greatest time to make a video like this and put it out because the Cannes Film Festival just wrapped up and a lot of people are going to be talking about that, but whatever, I'm not cool enough to go to Cannes, so this is what you're getting if you're one of my subscribers. But I wanted to go over all 10 of the movies that I watched and just give my brief thoughts on all of them because most of these movies are still not out. And honestly, I feel a little bit special that I got to see a lot of these movies before their wide release. So I will be going over each movie that I watched in order, giving my brief thoughts because I don't want this video to be too long. But without further ado, let's get started. So the first movie I watched at the festival was the opening night film, which was A24's Sing Sing. This is a movie that I had heard a lot about when it premiered at TIFF, I believe, last year, and when I saw it was the opening night film, I knew I had to watch it. But this movie stars recent Oscar nominee Coleman Domingo and a bunch of other prisoners in Sing Sing Correctional Facility in upstate New York. And these prisoners try to better themselves through something called RTA, Rehabilitation Through the Arts. And I've been open about this online for a while, but as it stands right now, this is currently in my top 5 favorite movies of the year. I absolutely adored Sing Sing, and I think that this is a movie that a lot of people will end up loving because it has crowd pleaser written all over it. What makes this movie so great and unique is that a lot of the prisoners that you see in this film were actual prisoners at the real Sing Sing Correctional Facility. And these prisoners really bettered themselves, and you could tell that it really means a lot to them to have a story like this told on the big screen. But what I loved most about Sing Sing is that this movie has a very positive outlook on life despite having shitty circumstances. Because in a lot of movies or TV shows nowadays, if it takes place in a prison, then the prisoners just continue to get into trouble and they really don't get any better. But this movie is not like that at all, and I loved that about it. Coleman Domingo is really the only household actor in this movie because everybody else is either a first-timer or, as I said, an actual person who was a prisoner of Sing Sing. But they all do such an amazing job in here, and if Coleman Domingo can get an Oscar nominee for Rustin, a movie that absolutely nobody watched, myself included, then he should definitely be nominated for this movie because he was incredible in here. And I also can't say enough about his co-star, Clarence Divine I. Macklin. This is the first movie he's ever been in, and my God, was he magnificent. As I said, this is a movie that a lot of people are definitely going to love, and I really hope they do because this movie is incredible. Please go see it when it gets a wide release on July 12th. Overall, I'd give Sing Sing a 9 out of 10. The second movie I watched at the festival was the newest film from Neon, Babes. I think Babes is the only movie on this list of movies that I'm going to talk about that actually has a wide release. It didn't have a wide release at the time I saw it, but when you slack like I do, eventually more people are gonna see it. But either way, in Babes we follow these two best friends, Eden and Dawn, as they navigate motherhood together. Because Eden finds herself pregnant after a one-night stand, and the father has seemingly ghosted her. I don't want to give too much away about this movie if it sounds interesting to you, because there is a lot that happens that was actually genuinely surprising. But I really enjoyed Babes. I thought it had such a simple story, but it actually made it super interesting. The leads, Alana Glazer and Michelle Buteau, have phenomenal chemistry with one another, and this is perfectly showcased right at the beginning of the movie, which is one of the most hilarious opening sequences that I've seen in any movie recently. But this movie does not shy away from showing you the difficult parts of parenthood. I'm not a parent myself, but obviously I have parents, and everybody who is a parent will tell you that it's a beautiful thing, and I don't doubt that at all. But I feel like a lot of movies shy away from showing you the hard parts of it because it's not all a walk in the park, and Babes perfectly showcases that. I really enjoyed this movie, but in terms of my complaints, it kind of did leave a lot to be desired when it came to conflict, because I feel like there wasn't a whole lot of drama until the ending. But I still really enjoyed this movie, and I saw this in like a sold-out theater, and it was so amazing to hear that many people in a theater laughing. I yearn for the days where we can watch comedies in a theater with a sold-out crowd again. But as I said, it's currently out in theaters now, so go see it. And I would give Babes a 7 out of 10. The third film I watched at the festival was a very small independent film called The Becomers. And in this movie we follow two alien lovers who were like body snatchers as they try to assimilate to Earth culture after their planet is destroyed. And honestly, I don't have a ton to say about The Becomers because there just isn't a lot to talk about, but I will say I did enjoy this movie for the most part. It's not perfect or anything, it is very amateurish in terms of its presentation, and there's actually quite a few moments in it that were genuinely shocking and very funny. In all the movies I've watched in my life, I never thought I would watch an alien sex scene where the line, "I missed your orifice" was spoken, but there's a first time for everything, isn't there? I do not know anything about this movie getting a wide release. I doubt it will be shown in theaters. Maybe it'll get put on a streaming service like Tubi or somewhere. I'm not exactly sure what this looks like, but if you see it on any kind of streaming service at some point this year, then check it out. You might like it. I would give The Becomers a 6 out of 10. The fourth film I watched at the festival is an absolute hidden gem. It's called Humanist Vampire Seeking Consenting Suicidal Person. And personally, this was my second favorite film that I watched at the festival behind Sing Sing. But the plot of the movie is explained right in the title. We follow a young vampire named Sasha who's not very keen on the idea of killing humans in order to drink their blood. So she decides to find a human who wants to kill themselves, that way she has a reason to do it. So she meets the young suicidal Paul, and the two of them form a pact with one another that Sasha will take his life. And what ensues is actually a very sweet, very funny, and actually really dark coming-of-age story. And this movie really has a unique twist on the traditional coming-of-age story, and there are a lot of movies that I saw glimpses of inspiration from throughout. Such as other vampire movies like Let the Right One In. I even caught glimpses of Before Sunrise here and there. But this movie is also so funny, and it might be because I have a really dark sense of humor, but I think when people in movies who are very indifferent to death is the funniest thing ever. The example I always use to explain my position on this is the scene in Pulp Fiction when John Travolta accidentally shoots Marvin in the face. He treats it more as if it's an inconvenience than anything, and I don't know, I find that sense of humor so funny. And there's a lot of that in Humanist Vampire, but there's so much attention to detail in terms of how Sasha and her family live. Like, they have blood packs in the fridge that they drink like juice boxes. And most, if not all of this movie takes place at night, because as you might know, vampires can't go out in the daylight. Add in a great score and phenomenal acting from the entire cast, and you have another one of my personal favorite movies of the year. This movie did just have a trailer release not too long ago, and I think it's being released in New York and LA sometime in June. So I'm hoping that it gets a wide release shortly after that, because I truly think that people need to go see this movie. It is fantastic. And I would give Humanist Vampire a 9 out of 10. And the fifth movie I watched was the self-proclaimed postmodern comedy Love and Irony. Before I get into my thoughts on this movie, I just need to give a shout out to the director, John Bisak, because my job the second week of the festival was being this man's liaison. I basically just hung out with him most of the weekend. I showed him around. I went to 2 screenings of this movie. I made sure he got to everywhere he needed to be on time. But I got to hang out with him, one of the cast members, as well as some of the crew. And as a token of his appreciation, he gave me this beanie that says Milwaukee Film Festival on it because he's from Milwaukee, and I truly appreciate it, John. You didn't have to do that. But I'm kind of having a hard time describing the plot of Love and Irony, so I'm just gonna read it right off Letterboxd. The search for an authentic life leads an existential bike mechanic to discover the universal truth and transformative powers of love. And I'm not just saying this because I was the guy's liaison, but I really did enjoy this movie. I don't think it's perfect or anything, but I could tell a lot of love was put behind this, and just the overall feel of it, it didn't feel like an independent film. The movie is very well shot. There are hundreds of locations that are used, which is very ambitious for an independent film like this. And I talked to John about this. There are a ton of references all throughout, and he was even surprised that I was able to notice some of them. And I don't know, me personally, I like movies that reference other movies, if it serves a purpose, that is, and in this case, it absolutely did. I can't quite remember what he said about this movie getting a wide release, but I think he said he's trying to put it on some kind of streaming service by the end of the year. So if you like rom-coms and you want to support independent film, then please give this one a watch if you have the chance. I'd give Love and Irony a 7 out of 10. And now, the 6th movie I watched at the festival was the Japanese horror film Bakemono. This is, without question, the worst movie that I watched at the festival, and it is not even close. And I was so disappointed, because when I was working one night, I was taking people's tickets, and a lot of people were going to see this movie, so I looked it up in the program because it sounded interesting. And I read the plot synopsis, and I was immediately on board. And in this movie, we just follow a bunch of people who are staying at an Airbnb in Tokyo, and unbeknownst to them, there's a monster waiting there for them that is going to eat them. Simple concept, but I thought that sounded amazing. This movie was the furthest thing from amazing. Now listen, I'm not trying to shit on anybody's passion projects here, and it's an independent film, I know that, but truly, I honestly had a hard time watching this movie, and I was tempted maybe 5 times to walk out. I've never walked out of a movie in my life because I managed to stay till the end. Somehow. But long story short, just about every single aspect to this movie is terrible. The acting, the pacing, the editing, the cinematography, the direction, none of it is really any good. And this movie is like an hour and 40 minutes long, and I'm not kidding you, that is one of the longest hour and 40 minutes that I have ever had to endure in my life. But I felt really bad because the director of the movie was in my screening, and he was very clearly excited to show this movie to people, but during the Q&A, I just kept my mouth shut. I'm like, I'm not gonna say anything about this. Really, the only good thing I could say about this movie is the monster design is really cool, and it was practically done, which is a nice touch. But yeah, I truly do not have any intention of ever watching this movie again, and honestly, I would encourage you not to as well, because I don't think it was good at all. But hey, it's your life. If you want to watch this movie, then please go for it. But I would give Bakemono a 1 out of 10. The 6th film that I saw at the festival was called Okie. And honestly, this movie, I really don't have a lot to say. In Okie, we follow an author who returns to his small hometown outside of Chicago after his father's death. But he reconnects with old friends and even an old flame, and he needs to answer for the sins of his past and why he portrays them in his books the way that he does, because it's not entirely truthful. But I don't know, maybe this movie would have connected more with me if I was from that part of the country or I was from a small town, because really this didn't do anything for me. But the movie is well made. I thought it was well acted, it's well directed. I really don't have any complaints in that department. And toward the end, it tries to get very surreal for some reason, and that personally didn't work for me. I don't know, this movie just didn't really resonate with me, but hey, you might like it. I don't know when it's going to get a wide release, but we'll see. Overall, I'd give Okie a 5 out of 10. And now we're getting into the really good stuff, because on the final day of the festival, I watched 3 movies and they were all fantastic. The 8th being Et 2. In Et 2, we follow a regional stage production of William Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, and the play's director starts to slowly descend into madness. I had heard a lot of really good things about this movie from other people at the festival who saw it previously, and they are absolutely right, because this movie is excellent. And it has some pretty big names in it. The stars of this movie include Lou Diamond Phillips and Malcolm McDowell. And both of them do such an excellent job, especially Lou Diamond Phillips. I haven't seen him in a whole lot of movies in my life, but I obviously know who he is. But he was so good in this. But this movie is very dark, because a lot of really brutal things happen, but it presents it in a funny sort of way. And as I said, that is my type of humor, when people are very indifferent towards terrible things happening. But the movie finds such a fair balance. I was laughing out loud several times, and there were other times where I was like, oh my god, I cannot believe that just happened. A huge inspiration I caught glimpses of was Birdman. For very obvious reasons, just the way this movie was shot was very reminiscent of the cinematography in Birdman, and the whole movie takes place in a very small theater, much like Birdman did. But this movie absolutely rocked, and when it was over, a large chunk of the crew was there, including the director, the cinematographer, I think one of the producers, and even the film's composer. And I think they said they're currently negotiating to put this on some kind of streaming service. They didn't say which one, but whenever this movie gets a wide release, I encourage you to check it out, because oh my god, was it good. I'd give Et 2 a 9 out of 10. The 9th movie I watched was the dark comedy Mother, Father, Sister, Brother, Frank. Now this movie I will also not talk about very long, because I just don't want to give away too much about it, because I truly think that this is a movie people should watch as well. But in this movie, we follow a family that's having dinner on Sunday night when their Uncle Frank unexpectedly arrives and turns the entire night upside down. That is all I can really say about the plot without giving too much away, but believe me, it is worth it. It's just now clicking in my head how many movies with very dark senses of humor I watched, because Mother, Father, Sister, Brother, Frank, another mouthful of a title, is hysterical and so unbelievably dark. But really, I'm sitting here struggling about what I can talk about when it comes to this movie, because I don't want to tell you anything about it, because it will ruin it for you. But I guess I could just leave it at that. Just know that this movie is excellent, it's hysterical, it's wildly entertaining, and it's not very long either, so it's a nice, simple, breezy watch. I think it's only about 90 minutes, if not a little bit over that time. But the filmmakers of this movie were also in attendance after the screening, and I believe they said they were shooting for some kind of wide release in the fall of this year. So if you see this playing anywhere, if you see it on any kind of streaming service, please do yourself a favor and check it out. It is fantastic. And overall, I give Mother, Father, Sister, Brother, Frank a 9 out of 10. And finally, the last film I watched was the festival's closing night film, and that was Thelma. In Thelma, we follow 93-year-old Thelma Post, played by June Squibb, who falls victim to a phone scam. And in this scam, she sends $10,000 in cash to the scammers. But Thelma does not let her old age stop her. She sets out on a journey to get back what is rightfully hers. And this movie was an absolute delight. One of my friends saw this movie at Sundance Online earlier this year where it premiered, and he described it as Mission Impossible for old people, and that's definitely what it is, and I think that's what the movie was going for. Because as I said, Thelma is a 93-year-old woman, so these very simple tasks are difficult for her. So a simple task like climbing the stairs or getting up on a bed is accompanied with this really intense score that works so well, and it is hilarious. But this movie isn't just hilarious, it's also very heartfelt and sweet. Because at the center of it, there's a very touching story about getting older and not letting your old age beat you. Because I am a firm believer that it is never too late to achieve anything in your life. It doesn't matter how old you are, but as long as you get there, you did it. And Thelma tackles that message so perfectly, and I absolutely adored it. And Thelma actually just had a trailer release not too long ago, and I believe it is getting a wide release on June 21st. So if this movie's playing near you, go see it immediately because I think you will love it. Well, that's it. Those are all of the movies that I watched at the 2024 Phoenix Film Festival. If any of these movies sound interesting to you, let me know which ones you're most excited about. Or if you have seen any of these movies at any other festivals playing all over the country, let me know what your thoughts are. I would love to hear them. If you guys like this video, please be sure to hit that thumbs up and do not forget to subscribe. If you want to see my previous reviews that I've done recently, I will link those right over here. Other than that, I hope you all have a tremendous rest of your day. I will see you all next time.